Westeros! And welcome to our Morning Throners podcast.
I'm Nelson.
I'm Jeff.
And I'm Kyle.
And we are your Morning Throners. And welcome into your new favorite Song of Ice and Fire podcast. We are your Morning Throners. I'm Jeff, here with my two friends, and we're going to tell you about what this podcast is all about. Nelson, lead us in.
Hey everyone, I'm Nelson. I guess you could say I'm the captain of this ship. The way we kind of structure this podcast is we're trying to make it for as many different people as possible. People who have read the books before, people who have only seen the show, people who haven't seen anything. So we try to get a variety of perspectives. The perspective that I'm trying to provide throughout the podcast is hopefully the smart one and the one who knows the most about the content we're talking about.
Not likely.
I've read the first three books at least 5 or 6 times. I've read the last 2 books at least 3 times, going through now probably on our 4th. So that's why I'm here. Jeff, we'll bounce it back to you real quick. Why are you here?
So I am Nelson's friend who was forced to read the books and forced to do a chapter-by-chapter analysis before this was even a thing. So we've done this already. I'm on my second read-through. Watched the show, but didn't watch it live until season 8. So I jumped on right on time for the crash. And again, Nelson has just pulled me along to everything. House of Dragons, A Knight of the Seven Kingdoms.
So you said you've seen the show, but what's your experience with, before starting this podcast, what was your experience with the books?
I got them as a Christmas present. I read them. You FaceTime me every night to talk about what chapters I read. Yeah.
So the point we're trying to say is Jeff has read them once, so he's on his second read. But yet Jeff is right. I kind of roped him into this podcast even before we started recording by making him FaceTime me after every chapter and be like, "Ooh, what'd you think? Ooh, what'd you think? Ooh, what'd you think?" I would also add that Jeff, I think, gives a very level-headed view. There's some times where a more casual fan might be like, what the fuck is Nelson talking about? He's going into history that has nothing to do with this chapter. Jeff says that, and he'll tell me, shut up, Nelson, we don't care, move on.
A lot of details.
So I think he also kind of keeps us on track. We get that perspective, too. And it's not that, Jeff, I don't want to put words in your mouth, but it's not that you don't like the books, right?
No, I do like the books.
Yes.
The details that you go into, trying to keep us on track for a nice hour-and-a-half pod. Struggle at times.
I think he did it right there, actually.
There we go, keeping me on track. Let's kick it to the last person, maybe arguably the most important.
Definitely the most important.
Kyle, why are you here?
I am the show. No, I'm Kyle. This is my first read through. I was never really interested in the show or the genre, like even while all the hype was going on, it just kind of was not my thing, right? Fantasy wasn't for me, but I did kind of, I do exist in pop culture, so I have seen kind of some of the, little bit of major spoilers and things like that. I'll leave them out in this because I don't want to spoil you if you haven't read it yet. So I did see a little bit of season 8, 2 episodes, I think, and I don't remember any of it.
Yeah, we'll get into a little bit more of exactly what you know, if we can remember going into it in a minute here. But yeah.
Yeah, so reading through from the perspective of a first-timer without any intimate knowledge of the plot and kind of trying to, add that perspective of, like, just kind of the not knowing.
First-time reader experience.
Yep, exactly. Cool.
It's really what it's about.
And then we did have another friend who started this journey with us, but he fell off because he's soft.
I should have looked this up, how long he was with us. So we're talking about, his name's Glow.
I think he finished the second book. Did he finish the second book? Was it like halfway through the second book?
So I guess we should point out, at the time of recording this episode, we're about a quarter of the way through Feast of Crows. But yeah, so we used to have Glow. Real quick, let me just find out when he was here. So I just checked. Looks like Glow is with us till 119 episodes. So at the time of recording, actually about halfway. So half the episodes at the time of this recording have Glow, half don't. And it's not like Glow and us had a falling out and we hate each other.
It's a lot of work.
No, we hate Glow.
We hang out with Glow all the time.
And he had multiple roommates too.
Yeah, he had stuff going on. It was tough to schedule content.
It's a lot of work.
Yeah.
But yeah, cool. So that's us. That's the Morning Throners.
Let's talk about how we can interact with our fans. So we should be on pretty much any podcast platform that you want to listen to, Apple, Spotify, YouTube, and we don't like to bore you with the fluff. We want to get into the content. And so we're not going to ask you to like and subscribe every episode, but there are plenty of ways for you to interact with us. The coolest and most interactive is definitely on our Discord channel, where you can be in different chat rooms depending on your level of experience, I would say. If you're a first-time reader, you can be spoiler-free if you want to get all the spoils.
Yeah, I'll flash a list of our channels right now, and then they could probably be reworked a little bit. But what Jeff's saying, like if you've read Fire and Blood, if you haven't, if you've read Fire and Blood and the books, if you've read everything, if you're reading along with us with Kyle,
House of the Dragon.
Exactly. So if you've seen TV shows, we have different channels for all that stuff, and we just talk about football sometimes too. So.
Yeah, there's a general chat. You can just kind of hang out with us. We're there. We're pretty available.
And along those lines, in general, we do allow full spoiler talk in the comments on YouTube. So we check those a lot too.
Yeah, don't worry. I stay away from all the YouTube and any comments that you guys may leave. I know that I am probably not supposed to see, so we do a good job of vetting that and making sure I'm out of them. So.
Yeah. If there's any comments that are just the general good episode, guys, I make sure to pass those on most of the time. But yeah, anything that's like, you guys are stupid, this is actually the right answer, spoiler stuff, I will definitely make sure Kyle doesn't see that. So feel free to say whatever you want in the comments. And I do like being corrected because that means I was wrong about something and we got something right in the future. So
also, when you're doing that, make sure you put a timestamp in there. That really will help Nelson to find kind of what you're talking about and make sense of everything that's going on. So be sure to make note of that while you're doing it.
Yeah. So I guess let's talk about a little bit of the history of when we started it and what kind of content we've done podcasts on. So pretty much everything we have is podcast content. We have a few shorts. I think I made one theory video that is proved incorrect by now based on House of the Dragon stuff.
The shorts are great too.
So I was actually going to mention that along the lines of the shorts. If I do want to go back and make at least one short for each episode, but in order to do that, I got to go re-listen to all the episodes. Some of you guys might be listening to the episodes right now anyway. If you guys think you found a good minute-long section for a short, leave a comment with a timestamp, and maybe it'll be a short. And more importantly, where you guys could really help out, if any of you guys have seen the show but are listening to a podcast for the first time, there are a few things that Kyle had just heard through pop culture, as we mentioned earlier, that might slip in some of the episodes. If we do mention any spoilers, book spoilers, in any of the future episodes, definitely leave it as a comment and I'll pin it so that any future people who are maybe reading along as a first-time reader who haven't seen the show will know and can avoid that section of the podcast. When we started recording the podcast, it was pretty much the peak of the Game of Thrones TV show's popularity. So we really weren't trying to censor ourselves too much. So anything Kyle knew was kind of fair game. Now that 5 years have passed and a lot of people are coming to the books having never seen the show, so some of the things we were saying in maybe some of the early era episodes could actually be spoilers for people who are reading the books having not seen the show. So anybody who wants to help out, definitely leave it in a comment. I will pin those for helping out for future readers or future listeners. But yeah, mostly podcasts. And what all have we covered the podcast on, Jeff? So I think the first thing we did was...
We had some cool season 8 podcasts.
So the season 8 stuff, I will say, Kyle was not a part of. That was just me, you, and Glow, obviously, because Kyle was unspoiled. Yep.
We jumped right in then to a Game of Thrones.
The Hedge Knight.
Oh, is that what we started with?
You and Glow had not read The Hedge Knight, Sworn Sword, or Mystery Knight, which... For those of you who might not be super knowledgeable about the series, those are 3 novellas that take place 100 years before the main series, which I love. So before we got Kyle involved, I wanted Jeff and Glow to read those to kind of have the full background knowledge. So we read those.
And funny enough, it's going to be the next series out.
Yeah, at the time of recording this, it'll be the next TV show that comes out is The Hedge Knight. So we did those, and then I think that's when we pulled Kyle in. And we started, at that point, 1 chapter a week. For the most part, we missed it here and there. But yeah, 1 chapter a week through the books to where we're at now.
Well, exactly. That's our format, right? So we do 1 chapter at a time. Each episode is its own chapter. We do a deep dive into the written word of that chapter and kind of go through the plot as it is on the page. With me, we do a lot of, predictions, and I try and come up with some theories. I don't think my strongest work is in the first book, but after that, though, after we get to the end of the chapter, they say goodbye to me, and the beginning is mostly spoiler-free. I do know that some of the stuff that I know comes out for sure, and so we do apologize for that if you kind of get a little bit of spoilers that way, but overall, spoiler-free, and then I'm kicked out. And I don't know what happens after that, so one of you is going to have to pick that up.
Yep, so from then we just talk about popular theories that pretty much have anything to relate it to the chapter.
Or just big spoilers that we know are coming.
Yeah, maybe the future of this character who we just read about or something like that, exactly. So yeah, exactly. Every chapter, spoiler section. The non-spoiler section where Kyle's there is generally much longer. And as we've been going, the spoiler section has been getting shorter and shorter because there's less that we know happens in the future because we're running out of book.
It's all tinfoil theories at this point.
Yep. And I guess the other thing I'll say about back when we started is It was the first time any of us had done this. Our microphones were worse. Our editing was worse. I'm the editor, so the editing was just worse because I was figuring out how to do it.
We didn't have our intern yet.
So it doesn't sound as good. Just the audio quality isn't as good. I don't think it's bad. And I honestly, I have gone back and listened to a few of the really early episodes. I think the content is pretty solid. I think I was a little sipping the Preston Jacobs Kool-Aid a little bit too much right when we started the podcast. So I go a little deep on some of his theories sometimes, which I don't know if I fully believe all the same ones that I did when we started. But yeah, hopefully if you guys are listening, you enjoy going on the ride of the books with us, whether you read along or not.
And tell us where we're wrong.
Or tell us your theories too.
Yeah, so I guess just a few last points that I wanted to say that I want to sneak in before we wrap up this welcome episode. While we're going through, I do fuck up names. So like if we're talking about characters and then Nelson just says the completely wrong name, like
yeah, you hear he says Tyrion, you think it's Jamie.
It's probably because I'm talking about Jamie and I'm just a little tipsy and I'm saying the wrong name. I guess the other thing that we should disclaim about this is you hear a beer crack at the start of every episode. That's not a pre-recorded. That's a live beer crack every episode. It's a kind of a mandatory thing that we're all drinking a little.
You have to drink.
Helps the conversation flow, I think.
You have to get warmed up a little bit.
But if the episode goes on an hour and a half, Nelson's definitely been saying some names backwards when we get to the hour and a half mark. So just keep that in mind. And if you think I'm saying the wrong name, yeah, you are. Sometimes I try and edit most of it if I can.
I am. That's what you meant to say there. You did it right there.
There you go. There's a perfect example. I just cracked beer too. That's why. See? You guys have anything else to say?
I actually don't have anything else to say.
Oh, I thought you were going to talk about the timelines.
I was going to say. I joke around that I don't care about the timeline or maps, but they're obviously important to the story. Nelson does a good job breaking it down, but I like to tease him. I like to tease Nelson a lot. And
we have fun.
You do have some treats coming up because we get in some heated arguments here soon.
For sure.
I guess along the lines of the maps thing, if you are not listening on YouTube, if you're listening on Spotify or iTunes or something like that, I do post all those to the Discord. So there's a podcast resources section that has nothing but any maps that would have showed up in the YouTube video, and it should be all in order from when we started. So,
and some of those are even custom maps that you make yourself, and you're not going to find anywhere else. They're actually pretty fun. So, and
some dope character art.
And when you say when he says custom, don't get too excited. It's me taking a picture of a poster on my wall and drawing on it in paint. So, but yeah, I point out what's going on where. So.
I mean, some of that really helped visualize as a first-time reader going through and to kind of understand that stuff. So that was going to be my disclaimer, is that I with the space between chapters, pretty much, we have, like, between our recordings, I do end up forgetting a lot of stuff. So there's a lot of refreshing that goes on with me. I'm not that dumb. It's just, have you ever read a book one chapter at a time? Probably not. It's a lot harder than you think.
And 1 week at a time.
Yeah, over the course of 5 years.
Yeah, so that's part of it. And then the other thing I did want to kind of come around on is that I am enjoying the books so far as we are getting through here. It's been a pleasant surprise. It's been a lot more fun than I not expected it to, but you know, it's made me a believer at this point, and part of that is Nelson's theories. So hopefully he can bring you through here too. So it's fun I like hearing crazy shit, you know. So here we are.
Cool. And we hope that by the time we get done with Dance of Dragons, we'll have another book waiting for us. But I think what you'll find out if you're just starting out with our podcast, we say that in the first or second episode, and here we are 5 years later, still waiting. So I'm not holding my breath. But that's it. I ain't got anything else to say to the fans. Hopefully future fans, you guys.
Thanks for joining us, and I hope you guys enjoy the ride.
See you in the prologue episode.
Let's get it.
5 years ago.
Bye.
Bye-bye.
Later, nerds.